Going through a divorce is a huge deal, especially for women in midlife. What you do after the divorce can make a huge impact in how you're going to live out the next chapter of your life. My name is Yulin Lee. As a money empowerment coach and a spiritual mentor, I have seen many women make financial decisions shortly after the divorce that may end up becoming traps for them without even knowing it. And so today, that's what I want to talk about. I want to call out some of the common mistakes in the hope that it can serve as a warning for those of you who may be considering doing some of the things I'm going to share with you. But also, if you're someone who have done one or two or more of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you, then no worries, no judgment. Just remember that you can always readjust and redirect how you make financial decisions going forward. Now, first, let's be very clear. People who make these mistakes, it's not because they're being careless. It's really the result of them still being on this emotional healing journey. They are readjusting to their new lifestyle. They're rebuilding their own identity. They're reclaiming their power. Essentially, they're in the process of finding themselves again. And so when you're in that emotional healing space, oftentimes our emotional brain is still running the show. And that's just being human. But any financial decisions that's made from that space can be problematic and can have unintended consequences. Now, the goal here isn't to force yourself out of healing, because you can't. Healing will take however long it needs. What we're really trying to do is to add a second voice in that room, the voice of strategic thinking. And both voices, the emotional healing voice and the financially strategic voice, they can coexist as long as you know how to listen for them and you are intentional about honoring both. Now let's get into the specific traps or mistakes that people often make shortly after the divorce. Mistake number one, rushing into home ownership. Now, for many women, whether it's people I talk to or clients that I work with, this is the most common thing that I see, that for women in particular, that they have this strong sense of wanting stability and security, especially if they have kids. But they associate that stability with home ownership. They feel that, if I own a home, then that's a safe space I can provide for my kids and myself. And then as they go through that purchasing process, there's also this very strong sense of pride that I am doing this on my own, for myself, by myself, right? Everything's under my name. I don't need anybody else's signature. And boy, I feel independent. I feel free now. And I feel so capable, and everything else that comes with rebuilding their own sense of identity and their own power. Totally get it. Totally makes sense, right? Now, here are the potential problems they may have. It really depends on your financial circumstances. If you have enough money where you buy a home, and after that, you still have money aside for your emergency fund and maybe some savings, then that's okay. For other people, if you ended up depleting most of your cash reserve, like the money that you got from your divorce settlement, that you put all of that money into this house that you're wanting to buy, then what happens is you ended up putting yourself in the most vulnerable position when what you're really trying to get is security and stability. And the reason I say vulnerable position is because you now have no cash reserve left after everything is done. Another thing that to keep in mind is you are now in a single income household, right? Because you're on your own now. And for a single income household, the most important thing is liquidity. And what do I mean by liquidity? Liquidity is your ability to access cash when you need it. Is your money liquid? Your money in the house is not liquid, right? You can't access it to purchase a grocery or pay your bills. And so when you're in a single income household, you must have emergency fund set aside before you do anything else. And by having that emergency fund set aside, that is what, at the end of the day, that will give you the stability and the security. Because no matter what happens, let's say if you put aside 6 to 12 months worth of living expenses, then you can, take your time to look for another job or whatever. But in a case of people rushing into purchasing a home and depleting all of their available cash, then what happens if you lose your job? What happens if you get sick, you can't work? So what happens is you now put yourself in a very vulnerable position because you now have no cash available to deal with any unforeseen things that may happen in life. So what would have served her better would be to just find a place that you enjoy living by yourself and with your kids, and just rent for a couple of years. And make sure that you set aside enough, at least 6 to 12 months of living expenses reserve. You set that aside, and then you look at what would make sense for me to purchase something. Maybe you still have enough money left to purchase a house, a condo, whatever, or maybe it's not enough. And if it's not enough, then take the time to save up a little bit more. Another thing that most people overlook is the real calculation of your monthly expenses. There's this idea that, well, if you buy a home, at least you're building equity, and that is absolutely true. Whereas renting, people call it, oh, that's money down the drain, right? Now, that may be true in the big scheme of things, but when it comes to making financial decisions, timing is another very, very important thing that most people tend to forget. That, yeah, it makes sense to own a home to build equity and not waste money and down the drain, but it may not be the right timing right now. So that is very, very critical for you to ask yourself is this the right time for me to purchase this home right now? And in order to answer that question, we need both sides of that voice that I mentioned again. It's that emotional healing voice, knowing that I want to own a home because I want to feel stable and secure, right? So that is the bottom line need that you're trying to fill. And then the financially strategic voice can say, okay, well, let's look at the numbers, see if we can meet that need without jeopardizing everything else. And if we can do that, then maybe there's another way to get your needs met, which is find a nice place that you enjoy living and just rent for a couple of years. That wouldn't be too bad. Now, there's one last thing I want to talk about, which is the psychological aspect of decision-making process. For some of these women, one of the hidden reasons why they have this big urge to purchase a home or to make a big purchase is because they're actually not used to having so much money sitting in the bank somewhere under their name alone. Because during their married years, they may have owned a home, but they may not have that much cash sitting in the bank. And so all of their assets are in the equity of their home. So when they split up, they sell the home, they're able to cash out their equity, and now the money is sitting in the bank account. And oftentimes, without even knowing it, it actually makes them nervous to have that much cash because, there's this unconscious idea, well, I don't want to lose it all. I don't know what to do with it. So therefore, I want to buy a home. I can use that money to buy a home so I can hold on to that money and I wouldn't lose it. Now, that's a very deep, unconscious psychological effect that oftentimes people don't realize that's what they're doing until they talk to someone like a coach who can reflect back to them and show them exactly what is happening. And so, again, that is something that not many people talk about, and a lot of people don't realize that is what's happening until someone show it to them. Now, for any of these traps that I mentioned, if any one of them sounds or resonate with you, maybe it's something you're considering, or maybe it's something you have already done, and you would like to speak to someone about, well, what should I do instead, or what could I do now? Feel free to schedule a complimentary discovery session with me. There's a link in the description below that you can click and schedule that. Okay, now let's talk about trap number 2, what I call the finally me spending. This is for someone who, during their married years, her spending was totally controlled. Maybe she was a stay-at-home mom, or maybe she wasn't making that much money. But essentially, the ex was managing and controlling all the finances. And she always felt like she had to get approval from him. And now that she's divorced, she has the settlement. It's all under her name. She finally has the autonomy. She finally has the freedom to do self-care, to fill her own needs. And these are all totally valid feelings that we need to really rejuvenate ourselves after having gone through maybe a difficult marriage and then also just the process of going through a divorce. Totally makes sense. Now, what she doesn't realize is that the elevated lifestyle, what I call the lifestyle inflation, is happening at the same time as she is going from a 2-income household to 1-income household. Or even if she wasn't making money, there are two adults in a household. So if something were to happen to one person, she can step up, also start making some money, right? So basically you're going from two-person household to a one-person household, which means there's no backup. That once the money is depleted, that's it, right? And so usually people don't realize that's what's happening because they're in this, again, space of emotional healing, this desire to really want to nourish themselves without any guardrails. And so she spends until the time where she look at her savings account or, wherever the money is, and all of a sudden she realized, wait, where did all the money go? And then that sends her into a panic spin. So what would have served her better would be to have a budget, to have some guardrails around her spending, right? It's not about not spending, it's about intentional spending. Give yourself a budget for self-care. Give yourself a budget for nurturing yourself in whatever way you need. But by giving yourself the budget and managing to that, that's another form of autonomy and freedom, which a lot of people don't realize. Let's talk about trap number 3, overindulgence with kids. Guilt is a powerful force, especially for women after divorce. They oftentimes have this sense of guilt for dragging the kids through a divorce. And obviously, divorces are always very, very difficult for the kids. Totally get it. And so one way they are trying to make it up to their kids is by being overindulgent, by using money to buy whatever the kids ask for as a way to show their love, as a way to compensate for the hurt that they had to go through. And these are all totally normal, logical feelings. But oftentimes they don't understand that they're doing at a cost of depleting her own cash reserves at a much faster rate. But also from a kid's perspective, in that moment, the kids may be happy that whatever I want, mommy buys. But in the long run, that's actually not the best lesson that they can get, right? So what would have worked better is to take this opportunity to start having money conversations with your kids. Now, you can have different kind of conversations depending on the age that they're in, but the theme is the same, is to teach them that there is no unlimited resources. So how can we be smarter? How can we be more resourceful in getting whatever we need? And also getting them used to, spending with a budget, right? So, by doing that, you're not only teaching them about money, budgeting, how to manage it, it will actually bring your relationship to your kids even closer by having these open money dialogues. Versus if you just indulge them buy until one day you're getting tired of paying because you start to realize, hey, I'm totally overspending. I need to save some for my own future. And then also as they grow older, their demands gets more. The moment that you stop saying yes, they'll get mad at you. And they don't understand why mommy now all of a sudden wouldn't pay for me. So all in all, it will be much better to start working on money together with your kids. Trap number 4, launching into a business without a budget and a plan. Divorce can spark a whole new identity, and entrepreneurship can feel like the ultimate freedom. So this is where I see also a lot with women after divorce. They really want to rebuild their new life, that sense of themselves being able to build something, which is totally valid. And so they have an idea of the kind of business they want to build. Maybe it's a coaching service, or maybe it's selling a certain product, whatever it is. Then they started investing in marketing training, sales training, branding, website, coaching, you name it. They feel like they need it all. And of course, as a business, we do need them all. But usually there's a sequence to meeting those needs. We don't just jump in unless you have a ton of money, unlimited resources, then sure, right? But normally speaking, what happens is this woman ends up over-investing in the business too quickly without having a clear idea of what investment am I willing to put into this business and what kind of return should I be expecting based on this investment. The strategic thinking, the strategic asking the questions that normally happens in a typical business. We often don't see that in this scenario because, again, our emotional needs to feel like I'm creating a new identity for myself is so much stronger that we are not listening to the business voice. kind of like the same thing that I talk about in the trap number 1. So we want to be able to integrate the two to say, yes, I want to create a new business. That's my new thing. And yes, I'm going to invest in this business, but I'm going to put guardrails. I'm going to give myself a budget. I'm going to be very clear about how much money I will invest in this business and what kind of return should I be expecting, whether it's in year 1, year 2, or year 3. Oftentimes, I see women jumping into these business ventures without any kind of expectation. They don't know what to expect. But yet at the same time, they just keep piling money into it, hoping that something will come back. And oftentimes after a few years, they deplete a lot of their reserves. And that's when they start to realize, oh, maybe I overinvested too quickly into my business. So again, what would have served her better would be to treat yourself as a CEO of a startup company. And then you can go out, raise funds, right? You can say, I'm looking for an angel investor to invest in my business. And you happen to be that angel investor. So as an angel investor, you would say, okay, I like you, I like your idea, and I'm willing to put 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever the number is right for you, to put in that business. And then you now sit in the CEO seat and you say, okay, well, now I have this chunk of money. I need it to last for a year. How would I spend this money? Maybe I don't need a brand new website right away. Maybe I don't even need marketing training, sales training at the moment. Maybe I need to figure out this product, this service. Maybe I need to prove the idea, the concept first before jumping into all these investments. And so that's something that I see a lot. And again, at the end of the day, it's about trying to balance, recognizing and trying to balance that emotional need, but also understanding, become a business owner. We also fulfill the business needs, and which is profitability. Trap number 5, which is cashing in on personal growth and personal development. This is very similar to the last one, except it is about over-investing in our personal growth too quickly. Now, I'm a person who loves personal development work, who loves personal growth, and I do invest in myself regularly and all the time, every year. But the problem I see with women right after the divorce, again, it's more like this bouncing effect, right? That they're finally feeling this freedom and this autonomy, and they have this strong desire to find their new purpose in life, to find meaning, to find out who they are. And so then they jump into all kinds of personal development work and going to conferences, going to retreats, hiring people here and there. Again, all of those are great. The only problem is maybe doing it too quickly and investing too much too quickly. So instead of treating it as this rush pour of water, which is the money, think of it as a steady stream of money that you will continue to invest in yourself on an ongoing basis year after year until the end. And so what would have served her better in this case is, again, to set a budget for yourself each year to say, okay, every year I'm going to allocate, maybe it's 5,000, maybe it's 10,000, depending on the level of money you have, but set aside a certain amount for personal development. And once that money is spent, it's spent. And if you want to do more, find other ways that you can get those lessons, get those learnings done through free content. There's so much free content out there as well. When you become mindful about how you are spending your money, then you're also becoming more resourceful as well. Before we sign off on this video, I want to give you 2 questions to use as kind of a guideline going forward. How would you make your financial decisions? Number 1, anytime you make a financial decision, you tell yourself, I need to do this. I need to buy a home. I need to invest in a business. I need to invest in this or that, right? Before you jump in and execute it, ask yourself, what need does it fill? Like say, if you say, I want to buy a home. Why do you want to buy a home? Well, because that makes me feel safe and secure. Okay, so now you know your emotional needs is safe and secure. And then what about strategically, financial wise, what needs does it fill? Is it depleting my cash, or is it helping me to grow my wealth, right? So when you ask these questions, none of these is about judgment. All of these is just allowing you to, at the end, to make a objective decision balancing the needs from both sides, and then you can make a cohesive decision. And question number 2, if I know what my emotional needs are, is there a way that I can make myself whole without doing this? If I'm already whole, do I still need to do this? Now, I also plan on doing another video on the right moves to make after the divorce. And so be sure to subscribe to the channel. That should be coming up in the next few weeks. And I hope these content are helpful to you. And if there is a specific topic that you want me to cover, and if you're a woman in midlife going through a major life transition, it could be a divorce, it could be empty nesting, it could be going from a stay-at-home mom to an entrepreneur, whatever that is, and you're looking for some directions, both in terms of clarity for yourself, but also financially, how do I make this transition happen? What would it look like when I transition to the new chapter of my life? What would that look like? So if you need help with any of these, be sure to schedule a complimentary discovery session. Then we can do a little brainstorming, and then we'll see if there's the right match for us working together. All right, until then.